Hello, everyone. This is Nathan Allen of Poets and Quants here with the Online MBA Backstage event, and excited about this panel from the Jack Welch Management Institute. I'll just do a quick intro and then we'll just dive into the questions. So we have Carla Mueller here, and she is the Director of Admissions at the Jack Welch MBA. That's correct, Carla?
That is correct. I'm also a graduate.
All right, welcome, Carla. And then Travis Baldwin, who is the Director of Global Business Development. Welcome, Travis.
Thank you very much, Nathan.
All right, Carla, we'll start with you. Why don't you just give us the general introduction of your school, mission, values, reputation. It doesn't matter as much for the Online MBA, but where you're located as well.
Absolutely, I'd be happy to. Thank you, Nathan. So, as I mentioned, I'm a graduate of the program. Our program was obviously created and designed by Jack over 10 years ago. I had the distinct pleasure of supporting Jack and Susie from almost the very beginning. So I've also been with the program for over a decade now, and it's been just a fantastic ride, and it's been incredible to see the progress we've made in a decade, Nathan, and thank you again for inviting Travis and I to join you today. I'll tell you a few things, Jack's vision for the program when he created it was, again, such an honor to be a part of that from the very get-go. Jack created the mission of the Jack Welch Management Institute to really transform the lives of our students. And that is by providing them with the tools to become better leaders, to build great teams, and help their organizations win. And it was really fantastic. So we are headquartered here in Washington, D.C. However, being an online MBA program, we have students from all over the globe. 69 different countries are represented in our program, 48 states. About 20 to 25% of our students, it varies, are international. And again, that was Jack's vision. He wanted to provide a top-ranked, top-tier online MBA education so students from all over the world could be in class together and have a way to earn an MBA program of that caliber without having to lose momentum in their career. In fact, quite the opposite. In fact, our motto is learn today, apply tomorrow. Really, one of the visions that Jack had for creating an online program was to be able to attract the very best and brightest faculty. And that's what we have of over 150 faculty. They actually last year were ranked #1 in overall quality of all the top ranked MBA programs. And that's because they're all experts in the field that they teach. They're highly engaged and they teach everything in a way that is designed to be very practical for students. So things that they can turn around and apply to what they're doing right away and see an immediate impact. So if you had to boil it down to one word, I would say this MBA program is really transformative. We have now over 3,200 alumni in the last decade. Over 1,800 students in the program at any given time. For everything from CEOs on down, we have people from all over the globe. We have CEOs, VPs, doctors, lawyers. We have active duty military people. We have a lot of military people in the program, special forces. Believe it or not, we have actually some professional athletes in the program. And the diversity of the program is what we really celebrate. Because as Jack used to always say, you learn the most from people that are the most unlike you. And so that's one of the things that we really celebrate here. And again, the exciting thing about the program is it is really designed to help students win. As I was mentioning earlier, our graduation is here in Washington, D.C. every year, a live graduation where we're headquartered. At last year's graduation, Susie Welch spoke, and she was speaking to all the students. And, she was talking about the initial vision for herself and Jack when they created the program was really to empower students to win in life, to win in business. And that's where everything kind of stemmed from. So that's kind of the 30,000-foot view of the program.
Great. Thanks for that. We'll stick with you for this next one. Zooming in a little bit from the 30,000 foot view, what are some of the intricacies of the program? So you mentioned 1,800 students currently in the program. What's the typical class size overall? What sort of flexibility and pacing do you all offer? Even like emphasis on group work versus individual work and concentrations. What are some of those more intricacies of the program?
Absolutely, great question. So kind of the nuts and bolts of it. So it is a 12-course MBA, Nathan. We started out with the original MBA, just everything that you would need to operate with that CEO mindset. We've now since called that kind of our leadership MBA, just to differentiate from the three concentrations that we have, the three additional concentrations that we have. We have a healthcare concentration, we have a human resources concentration, and then we also have operations management concentration. So regardless of the concentration, it's always a 12-course MBA. We're on a quarter system here. So it's designed for every quarter. Students have the option of taking either one or two classes for that 10-week quarter, with about 2 to 3 weeks of a break in between. So it's designed to get through in as little as 18 months. Now that would be taking 2 classes every quarter. But the great thing is students can really pace it as they go along. So it's up to them as each new quarter approaches. That's when they'll work with their advisor to figure out, how many classes, 1 or 2 for the next 10 weeks of their life, do they want to bite off and chew, and which classes will those be? So if you took 1 class per quarter, which is actually what I did, slow and steady wins the race, it's a 3-year program. Our average graduate out of our 3,200 graduates, they're taking on average 2 to 2.5 years to get through the program. I'll share with you, some of our students have to take even longer. My husband actually went through the program as well, and because of the nature of his job, he had to sit out quite a few quarters. It took him like 4.5 years to get through the program. So point being is that flexibility is there. It's designed for you to pace it, for it to be something that's going to help you transform your career, not interfere with it. And so that's it, 12 courses, regardless of concentration, 10-week quarters with about 2 to 3 week breaks. And again, you can really gauge it as you go along, and it's designed to be something that is really applicable and practical. So not something that's going to interfere with your career, which I know is a lot of concern. Our common student, Nathan, average age of our students, 41. Most of our students have 15 years or more of experience, and common denominators, almost all of our students are working full time. Oh, there's lights came back on. So, so it's designed to be very flexible in nature. It's 100% asynchronous, so students never have to be logged into class at any certain time on any given day. So they're logging into class whatever time of the day, whatever day of the week works for them. The lectures are all pre-recorded. They'll have lots of interaction with their classmates. So every class we keep at 20 students or lower, so that they get a lot of hands-on engagement from their professors. And they'll have a lot of interaction, but that interaction is happening on the discussion boards, which makes the asynchronous model really flexible for our busy working students.
Great, thanks so much. Travis, I understand that you earned your MBA as well from Jack Welch. Is that correct?
It is. It's definitely a great endeavor and a great investment.
All right, so let's talk a little bit about that.
Sure.
Let's start easy. What made you want to pursue a master's business degree?
Oh, wow. Well, I think with a lot of that, anybody looking at an MBA program, you're probably falling into a certain category of person. I mean, there's a few lifelong learners out there, and we have them, and every program does, that just I someday wanted to get my MBA. But the vast majority of people pursuing that degree are because they want more, whether it's they're running a business successfully, or a legal practice, a doctor, whatever it may be, and they were never taught business, or they're an entrepreneur that wants to do better at their job, or there's somebody that wants to get promoted up internally in a corporate focus and move up the ladder. I was kind of some of the first and the majority of the last, in the sense that I grew up with an entrepreneur family, numerous generations of, knew I always wanted to go that direction. But I was in corporate America at the time, paying bills, living life as we all were. And I kept finding myself getting into mid-management kind of roles and just stagnating. And it was one of those things where I was, selling tech software, and I would do well in my role. I'd hit my numbers, get my promotions, get in charge of a handful of people or more, take them up. They were doing their numbers. Everybody's happy. We're making money. But I wasn't really going any further than that in the organizations. And so I started looking around at everybody around me, and I started realizing that all the executive leadership, all the direct superiors above me, everybody had their MBAs. Even our director of HR, she had her MBA, So I started, okay, maybe that's the common denominator. And I assumed that was going to be the best direction and the path forward for me to open those doors up. And also with that, I kind of, after starting my journey at JWMI, realized that some of that lack of promotion was me. They kind of the pulling back the guys and realizing that there was things I needed to fix and address to make those next steps. So that was part of it, just getting to that point in my career where I knew I had to go to that next stage that looked like the best path forward. So I started the journey of researching schools and what was around me. But I also wasn't 22 years old, jumping right from an undergrad into, that MBA aspect of things. So I had my undergrad at a BS in finance, a BS in marketing, and a minor in international business. So I thought about the different pathways forward, but a general MBA just seemed like it would be the most impactful for me in my career. And as I looked around at a lot of schools, I started to look at the predicament I was in, not being 22, having a family, having a job, career, bills, the usual that we all juggle. I couldn't just stop what I was doing and go to a brick and mortar institution, take a year and a half year sabbatical, go through a program, and then go look for a job. That just simply wasn't in the cards for me. And then it also got to the problem that as I was researching schools, I knew I wanted a top flight education. I wasn't so much concerned about cost. I was more concerned about value. I was willing to pay for a quality education if the value was there. And I started looking at all the top 20 schools and everything around me, and all the brick and mortar programs, even with A&M and UT, great programs. They had their satellites here in Houston where I'm at, but they required that Friday through Sunday block of time. And in my role, I had to travel globally all the time. So it was very challenging to say every day at this time I was going to be able to be in that class. And it was kind of a very apropos moment because as my wife and I were looking at options and talking about what we were going to do, the very next day on LinkedIn, I saw an ad for JWMI. And I grew up, as I mentioned, with my family and their practice. They were huge fans of Jack. My dad was always giving me his books to read as a kid. So I was like, Jack Welch MBA, what is this? Clicked on the link, had a talk with the admissions team, and really opened up a whole new door of possibility when I learned about the asynchronous model and the quality of the education. I needed that flexibility to be able to keep doing what I had to do in my daytime, to take care of my responsibilities, family life, et cetera, while still getting a top flight education. And that ultimately is what I found with the JWMI program, is it had the highest value to price that I could find of anything out there. Huge fan of Jack. His principles are built throughout the entire program. You look at what he did, CEO of the century, what he did for GE to #1, and the fact that more Fortune 500 CEOs out there came up under Jack than anywhere else. It proves the time-honored practice of decade after decade, these principles work. And I knew I wanted more and I was willing to go after it. So that set me off that journey.
Great. And I know that I'm supposed to stick to the script, but the journalist in me has to ask a follow-up to this. What do you think were some of the most important aspects in helping you reach that next level of your career? Because you're a director now, obviously in your title. So, it succeeded and, pushing past middle management up to that higher level. What do you think were some of the most important aspects of the program that helped you get there?
I would say the mental shift and the transformation that happens. You start learning principles. One of the first that Jack is huge on is servant leadership. And it's the idea that it's not about you. It's about the team. It's about the company. And when you go through that paradigm shift and you start acting accordingly, and you're helping out those around you to make them better at their job, regardless of if you get credit for it or not, you're trying to be proactive, putting things in motion. You're going down the hall, having talks with people from other departments, maybe that you prior you weren't as confident about or you didn't know about. And as you're going through the program, you're learning these things and these tools and these skills that open up your flexibility, your wheelhouse of skills, but also your understanding of things in the bigger picture. And so you start having real world impacts in your career and in your trajectory. And even just starting off with the very first class with leadership, you get into your DISC assessment, finding out who you are, how you interact with those around you. That goes to my earlier point of, some of the problems were me. I didn't ever take into account the EQ of things and how I was being perceived. And I was just so focused on performance that I didn't worry about my team or those I was in charge of or how that was helping the organization as a whole. And also just leadership, both going typically those on your team below you, everybody thinks of that, but that's more management. Leadership is much more leading the charge, rolling up your sleeves and being there with them, not telling everybody what to do. So it's just a different perspective and approach to how you handle yourself and those around you, in addition to all the fantastic skills and learning that you get within the program itself.
Yeah, I really like that answer. I think a lot of people just envision the MBA as more of a hard skills degree, and learning those soft skills, I think is, learning those soft skills to push your career forward as well is super important. So thanks for that. Carla, hang tight. We're going to stick with Travis for one more, and then we'll get back to you.
Got it.
You mentioned work-life balance a little bit, as you're starting the program. I'm wondering what advice you have for students who are concerned about that. Generally speaking, a lot of the online MBA students are at that level where they're starting to have young families, they're starting to be further in their career. It's just one more thing to juggle in an already busy schedule. What's your advice for them?
Nathan, you nailed a great point, because I would say, at least from a personal perspective, that was probably one of my largest concerns, or one of my biggest hurdles I had to personally overcome to make the decision to move forward with my MBA. Was that idea is, as much as I was working 50, 60-hour weeks on average, trying to come home, be there for my family, trying to put all these things in motion, it became a question of, how can I make this work? How can I do this? And really, it gets down to the biggest aspect is just time management and time blocking, taking a look at your day, your week. That's the beauty of JWMI, is you have the flexibility to get yourself immersed in that when it makes sense for you. That's the beauty of the model. Is it doesn't matter if it's 4 a.m. before you get ready with your day, 10 o'clock at night, during a lunch break, while I'm on a plane traveling somewhere. You have the ability to tap into the curriculum, the discussions, all your assets you need to learn and take in, videos, etc., and do that when you're at your best. And you're able to do that dynamically every single day. So my week is very chaotic. I might have a 14, 15-hour day. The next day is a 7 or 8-hour day. There's no real rhyme or reason to it, as I'm running around putting out fires and trying to deal with clients. So being able to have that flexibility to say, okay, today I've got to do this at lunch. Normally my routine is in the morning or whatever, but today I got to mix it up. And you can do that and find that rhythm that works for you. The other aspect, and Carla and our team will probably be better apt to talk about this with people individually, but just looking at how much time you really need. We found that most of the time, one class is about 10 hours per week on average, sometimes a little less, sometimes a little bit more, but that's a pretty good block of time to anticipate. And I would say, take a look at your schedule and say, in a course of a week, where can I fit 10 hours of time? Is that a little less TV? Is that maybe giving up a hobby that I like to do a little bit here and there? Does that mean I just have to be more efficient with some of the things I do earlier to carve out a couple minutes? We can all do that. It's not a large spot of time. And if this is an investment, a trajectory you want, that degree afterwards and the doors that it opens, it's worth every second of carving that out, because you're investing in yourself. And as Benjamin Franklin said, the wisest investment we can make is in the tools of our trade. In the world of business, that's this up here.
Great, well said. All right, Carla, let's switch back to you. I know you're the director of admissions, but I'm sure you get asked about career questions often. So this is one of those. What sort of resources does Jack Welch Management Institute offer their online MBAs in terms of career help? So networking, mentorship, connections with alumni. What are some of those points?
I love that you asked that question, because it's my favorite thing to talk about. And honestly, one of the biggest differentiators and value adds to this program is exactly that, is the networking that comes along with it. So everything that I was talking about with schedules and that Travis was referring to, all of the classroom activity, that all happens on something called iCampus on Blackboard. But separate and aside from that, we have a proprietary platform. Our JWMI networking community is incredible, Nathan. We have over 3,200 alumni, as I mentioned, over almost 2,000 students in the program, over 1,800, almost 2,000 students in the program, or 150 faculty. So that's where they all congregate. Because as I mentioned earlier, the classes are small. You're going to be meeting 18 and 19 other students in every class, and it's a different mix of students each time and a highly engaged professor. But completely outside of that, you can join once you become a student, and you have to be a student or alumni or faculty to join this. But the minute you do, you can join JWMI Connect. And that's where so much magic happens. We had over 77 virtual events last year. We used to have live events too, pre-pandemic. We're going to get back there someday, but right now they're all virtual, but they're incredible. They're virtual networking events, they're different webinars. There are, different things happening all the time. You can be matched up with a mentor. Our alumni, so many of them, about 80% of them are raising their hand saying, yes, I want to be your mentor. Do you want a mentor? We have job boards on there. You can find other students by location. I mean, it's just an incredible place. And there's a tremendous amount of fellowship and camaraderie within our students and our alumni that's really unparalleled from anything else that I've seen out there. We really, when we have our live kickoff calls, which we just had for our spring quarter, everybody says, welcome to our JWI family. And I know that might sound a little corny, but it really does have that family feel with the alumni and the support that the students receive from other students, and the alumni and the faculty are so highly engaged. And speaking of faculty engagement, that's one of the things that would really pleasantly surprise me, is the level of engagement that you get from your faculty. You can send them a note or an email. They're pretty much available 24/7 when they're not sleeping. They'll call you. They will not just talk you through the things you're going through in your course. They'll give you career guidance. They'll have one of my favorite professors who teaches leadership talks about how he had to, while a student had just joined the leadership classes, with the first class, and she got her very first promotion as a manager. And for the first time in her life, she had to end up firing somebody because she got promoted to a management level. So this professor spent like an hour on the phone with her, talking her through that, and she got to walk through it with them. But those are the kind of examples of the level of support and career and life engagement that you get from not only the alumni, but the other students and the faculty in the program. And again, one of the most, probably lifetime beneficial things is the networking and the friendships and the connections that you're going to make in the program.
Yeah. I know that Jack Welch, in particular, a key differentiator is the accessibility and how happy your alumni are with the faculty. We survey your alumni every year as part of our Online MBA ranking, and Jack Welch always finishes very high compared to all of its peer schools and all the schools based on alumni satisfaction with the faculty and how accessible they are. So I definitely would agree that that's, based on our reporting, that's a key differentiator that we see as well for the Jack Welch Management Institute. So we've only got a few more minutes left. So I'm going to try to get Travis a question and then we'll wrap it up with Carla. So Travis, you already spoke a little bit about some of these things. So it might just be recapping kind of what you already said, but feel free to add something new. Some of the hallmarks of the program for you. What were some of those hallmarks?
Oh, wow. There's so many. Definitely, I'd have to echo Carla's sentiments there. Just the interactions and the connections with the student alumni and the professors that you make. Having gone to 3 different universities for degrees in the past, this was an entirely different immersion, engagement, connection than I'd ever had in a brick and mortar environment, which surprised the heck out of me because I wasn't really a virtual fan prior to going on and taking this degree. But lifelong friends that I've met along the way, people that I've learned from that have affected my career in the positive, continue to do so. It's really been fantastic. All the ideologies, the Jackisms, the learning blocks, everything that we learned along the way that have just revolutionized my career. And ultimately, I'd have to say that's probably the biggest takeaway was the impact, Nathan. This MBA was a catapult for my career. It really was. We document, and to Carla and her team, ever since the dawn of Jack being there, the biggest metric he cared about was the bottom line to the student. Did it change your pocketbook? Did it make an impact to your career? That's the metric above all. And the school has monitored that since day one. And what we found is that quarter after quarter, more than 70% of all students report getting a promotion just while going through the program. That's not you have your MBA, you're out there. And that is because of that real world applicability of what you're learning every week. You take that information in, ask, how does it apply to me? How does it apply to my life, my career? And you put it in motion with actionable results. It's not just knowledge, it's wisdom. How do you apply it? What are the things to look out for? And that's what the professors and the DQs help you steer through. So ultimately what you have is a real world impact. For me, I got 3 promotions just while going through the program, and I've had 2 more since. I'm now sitting on 2 boards. I've started my own consulting company. I'm in the midst of a very large 8-figure development deal and going through another product that we're taking through IP. So multiple companies being started, new careers that have opened up. It has revolutionized not only my confidence, but my skill sets, my capabilities, the willingness to look at things and go after it, instead of having those pauses and those hesitations. So the best investment I've ever made. I mean, if you want to look at financial returns, it's hands down the best I've ever captured.
Great, thanks. And then Carla, to finish us out, what's your best piece of advice for people who are considering the Online MBA? And then how do people get in touch with you in your office if they're interested in learning more about your program?
Absolutely. Thank you. So the best piece of advice I can give you is just do it. I have enrolled thousands of students myself, and I can tell you so many students are waiting for the right time when they feel like I'm going to have enough time. You probably will never have enough time if you look at it that way, but you will make the time. Remember your why you're doing this. And I say it all the time, but it's really true because, and this MBA program in particular, but an MBA is not only going to change the way you look at the world, it's going to change the world, the way the world looks at you. It's an investment that you're making in yourself that nobody ever can take away, that's going to pay off for you year after year after year. Our average return on investments under 2 years. And our average student, like Travis said, 73% of our students are getting multiple promotions and raises while they go through the program. So that transformation starts from day one. And that's the exciting thing to see it. Most of our average graduates making 20% more than when they started by the time they graduate. That's just while they're going through the program. So my advice to you is just do it. It may feel scary. It may feel overwhelming. Take the first step. As Martin Luther King says, you don't have to see the whole staircase. Just take that first step, and you'll be surrounded with all kinds of support to help you along that staircase. So just do it is my first piece of advice. And then to get a hold of me, really easy. I will give you my phone number right now if you want to write it down. It's 703-561-2056. You can call me directly anytime. You can connect with me on LinkedIn. That's probably the best way. Connect with me. I'm the only Carla Bates. It's my middle name, Mueller. I do that just to differentiate myself. I'm the only Carla Bates Mueller on LinkedIn. You can also find Travis Baldwin on LinkedIn. Connect with me there. Send me a message. Or you can go to jwmi.com is our website. You can fill out a request for information form, and somebody on my team will reach out to you right away. So lots of ways to get a hold of us.
All right, great. Thank you very much. This has been a great panel. I appreciate both your taking the time to do this today. Again, this has been Travis Baldwin, who earned his MBA from Jack Welch Management Institute, and Carla Mueller, who's the Director of Admissions at Jack Welch Management Institute. And I'm Nathan Allen for Poets and Quants. Thanks, and have a good rest of your day.
Been a
Thank
pleasure.
you.